Sandra, let's bring in Kansas Republican Senator Jerry Moran. He just returned yesterday from Poland and Germany, where he went with a bipartisan group of senators to see the humanitarian crisis firsthand. You weren't far from where Alex Hogan is, and you were in the area where she's been in recent weeks. What was the situation like there that you saw at the Poland-Ukraine border?
You know, we saw good things and terrible things. The good thing is the outreach of the people of NATO countries, the humanitarian aid that is flowing. But we saw the terrible things happening to a very brave set of Ukrainian citizens with significant leadership that's pulling them in the direction of freedom and democracy, fighting back on Putin. But the tragedy is, I wouldn't want Americans to forget, this is not a tragedy that is coming about as a result of a natural disaster. This isn't a flood. It isn't a hurricane. This is caused by Vladimir Putin. It's caused by his evil intentions in invading a neighboring country. And this is unnecessary. This just isn't the natural occurrence. We need to make certain that the spotlight stays on Putin, who is evil, and perhaps I worry. I'm not comfortable in thinking, certainly based upon his attack on nuclear power plants, that he would stay within the borders of Ukraine if we don't push back. So push back strong. I worry that that we give the Ukrainians enough support, military and humanitarian, to survive, but not to win.
So across that border that you were near have been employing thousands of Javelin missiles, hundreds of Stinger missiles, millions of rounds of ammunition. Sanctions are putting the squeeze on Putin and on everyday Russians as well in an attempt to bring pressure to bear on him to back off. Yet he's still pursuing this campaign in Ukraine, and he's doing it in an ever more brutal fashion. So how many weapons, how many sanctions does it take to get him to stop?
Well, the reality, John, is that he has more men and women in the military in Ukraine than Ukraine does. He has more capable weapons. I just want to make certain that the United States of America, the West, doesn't make the moral decision that we're going to just allow Ukraine to fight back. We ought to do everything we can to give them the chance to win. And that means certainly making certain that what we've already committed to Ukraine in military lethal equipment and certainly in the humanitarian aid is actually being delivered. And yes, while we saw things crossing the border, certainly in our visit with Ukrainians, they are pleading for more, but they're really making the case that we're not receiving yet what we need. And they're very grateful, but it needs to be, we can't slow walk this. We can't have a bureaucratic march to these people's death.
Well, let me ask you about that. When you say they're not getting what they need, what do they need?
Well, it's many of the things that we say we're sending. And so it's more, I mean, certainly the idea of air coverage,
the MiGs.
The MiGs. That's been on their list from the beginning.
It still is.
And still is.
Despite the fact that the White House says, oh, they don't need them.
The White House has said no. I mean, they said yes once. I think Secretary Blinken green-lighted it, and then it didn't happen.
They said yes before they said no.
They said yes before they said no. And I think that's what the Ukrainians, and that's what really this bipartisan group was certainly trying to convey, is that Republicans and Democrats are committed, and this is not something that we are in just for the short term. And again, don't put these Ukrainians in the position of being able to get by day to day without a real chance for victory. Give them the things that they can use. And much of the burden will rest with NATO countries. Yeah. This is an European issue. It's not just an American issue. And we need our allies, and we're seeing it, need to step up and do the things, humanitarian and military support, to give the Ukrainians more than just survival, but a chance, at least, to win.
The word that the White House keeps using is escalatory, that we can't send this because it's escalatory. And President Biden says he doesn't want to accidentally start World War III, which I think in the overall scheme of things is a good thing. You don't want to start World War III. But, you know, you don't want to lose Ukraine, but you also don't want to lose the rest of Europe. But can Putin be pushed harder without this escalating into World War III?
Well, to know that, you have to know what's going on in Vladimir Putin's in his mind, and we don't know that. But again, he is reckless, he is immoral, and we cannot take, we have to be prudent in what we do. But there's no reason that we can't do more than what we're doing and do it faster than we have been doing it.
All right. Senator Jerry Moran of Kansas, welcome back. Thank you for stopping by. We appreciate the time.
Thank you very much.